Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jake Remillard here with my partner Marie Baginski and Robert Vazquez. What is going on?
What's up, everyone? How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Just have someone walk into my office real quick. Hi. You're welcome.
It's all right. We're all recovering from a long holiday weekend right now, so
I need an IV right now is what I need, guys.
it's great.
I was hoping to get one last night. It didn't work out well.
Oh, no. All right. Well, Robert, we're going to start at the beginning. I know that you have been in real estate for a long time, but tell everyone at least what was the beginning? How did you get started in real estate? Was it straight off the bat, like you always knew you wanted to be in this business, or was it something else?
No, absolutely not. So I was attending Harvard, okay, and as in their website, and I realized I don't qualify to go there. No, actually, my start, I was very young and irresponsible, and thought I knew everything. I ran away at 14 years old, and I never went back. And then I made the incredibly smart decision to get my, which was an accident, by the way, to get my high school sweetheart pregnant because condoms were no fun. I was an idiot. So pretty much I got pregnant. We got pregnant at 16 years old. I got married a week later. I turned 17.
Wow.
And then I joined the military. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't join the military because I needed to. I was actually making really good money. I ran away at 14. As soon as I found out my girlfriend was pregnant, I had the whole responsibility kind of get dawned upon me. And I'm first generation American. So, seeing kids, people having kids at a young age, I guess it might be more normal in third world countries and other countries. But, I was no stranger to hard work already. So when that happened, I was like, listen, I got to work. I know I need good credit, so I went off trying to apply for credit cards thinking that was going to help me, and it actually hurt me. 16-year-old kid applying for credit only is going to damage your credit. But before I knew it, I was working at, 3-4 retail jobs, just trying to make as much money as possible. And I was doing, say, certain activities that a young kid should not be doing to make extra money. And I was making about 60 grand a year. And I realized that wasn't sustainable. And we're talking like 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
So that wasn't sustainable. And plus, from my understanding, perhaps police officers were looking at for the guy driving a laser red Ford Mustang Steeda.
Nice.
So then I realized, hey, today might be a good time to join the military right now. I want to do something cool and fun. And the recruiter obviously lied to me. I'm not sure if, Jake, that recruiter lied to you as well, but they showed
Yeah,
me
I think it was the same one.
Same guy?
Yeah.
That jerk off showed me a picture of a guy mixing chemicals in a white lab coat. I go, that I could do that. Air conditioning? That sounds pretty cool. Not at all. We're remotely close to the jobs that I did when I joined the military.
What branch were you in?
Army, the best.
Army. Nice.
Oh. What was your MOS?
54 Bravo, which I believe now is 74 Delta, nuclear, biological, chemical.
Oh yeah, Seaburn guy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So it's like you go, remember, from the white lab coat mixing chemicals to you're wearing mop gear, mop level 5, your core temperature raised like 15 degrees, and you're out being a glorified car washer if you get stuck in decon, which is what I did. And I fought to try to go to recon, and then I got fortunate enough to go to smoke, and the smoke platoon was very. We were deployed all the time. We're out there training all the time, and it was a fun unit. It really was. We built a lot of camaraderie, a lot of morale, kind of building activities. We were in the shit a lot, and it is what it is. But I got, let's say, I got out of the military.
Okay.
And I had no idea what I wanted to do, but it was more than that. Like, I got out and I was all messed up in the head. I go in, it's during a time of peace, and then my first week in my first duty station, September 11th happens, and I'm seeing the sky fall apart. I'm like, I don't know what the hell to expect. Like, shit, we're going to war. I'm like, I just got out of basic.
Right.
What the fuck? I didn't sign up for this shit.
Wow.
And that I didn't sign up for it. I just wasn't expecting, because even in my mind, I'm like, hey, we've had many years of peace. I don't see anything kind of going on that might be, dangerous.
It's always there though. Like when you sign up, you're like, it's a possibility.
Yeah,
but
it's
you're
a
not
possibility. It's a possibility. But
Wow.
it's nothing happened for, I want to say, at least a year. a year and a half. I know there was like preparations, a lot of stuff. We're trying to figure out what happened, who did what, and I was just minding my own business in school. I was, excuse me, in the Army. I was going to Central Texas College at the time.
Mhm.
I was working on getting my associates at the time, and then doing other things. I was preparing to go to Special Forces to go through selections and whatnot, and then they issued a stop loss. So no one, if you're ETS and getting into the military, no one's going anywhere. They were extending contracts. If you're going to school, you have to stop that. If you're going through any kind of recruiting or any kind of other additional services, they stopped it. We needed
Yep.
to reposition our forces because we were going to be deployed overseas. And obviously, in a weapon of in a war of a war pertaining to weapons of mass destruction, who do they call? The chemical, nuclear, biological, chemical warfare guys. I'm like, what the fuck? This is not what you guys sold me. Where's the air conditioning and the white chemical, the gloves and shit? So anyway, you fast forward, and the first job that I got getting out of the military was at a call center that I worked at when I left. So I was working at a call center, one of my many jobs, and I find myself being in a cubicle after spending several years in the military and coming back from like a combat zone to being in a 3x3 freaking cubicle. I was extremely depressed. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was trying to figure out a way to get back in the military, and because of my injuries and a bunch of crap, I was like, this isn't going to work. And I was trying to figure out every single loophole to get back, to go back overseas to serve with my guys. And it was just a really depressing time in my life. I was separating from my ex. I was sleeping in my car, which is really uncomfortable when you have another Ford Mustang. Very uncomfortable.
I guess we know what kind of cars Robert likes.
Well, at that time, I love the car. It was a great car.
Yeah.
And now I'm 20 years old, approaching 21, and I was just completely lost, man. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And growing up in the area and the environment that I grew up in, even though a lot of my family were business owners, it was more like, I never saw anyone, like I never thought the real estate would be in the realm for me, or having the income levels or the opportunities or the traveling or just the things I was able to do as a result of real estate just wasn't within my realm. It was just get a job wherever I can get a job at, right? Telemarketing, the store, freaking, bagging groceries, whatever the hell I could do. And what I could tell you is that the first thing I got involved in that changed my life was getting into the mortgage industry at the time. Okay. So I got in at the tail end of 2000. I got in 2003. Technically speaking, I started learning about brokering loan applications. I started doing that when I was in the process of getting out.
Yeah.
But I only knew about taking applications, not about the full-scale origination. When I got involved, I worked for AmeriQuest Mortgage Company. They were the nation's largest subprime lender, like by far. It got to the point where we were the sponsor of Major League Baseball, the sponsor in multiple commercials for the NFL, the Super Bowl, which, those things are not cheap.
Right.
Great, hilarious commercials, I recall. But we were selling 9s and 10s and 11% interest rates in a market where, the rates were progressively decreasing. We were in our refi boom.
Yeah.
Dead people were getting mortgages at the time, if you guys recall, literally dead people were getting mortgages. It was insane. I wasn't part of that. But we did, deal specifically with people with troubled credit and, high debt. And so we learned to sell benefit, not rate, which is something that's really helped us out, on this go around. But I transitioned from that opportunity, and that opportunity really opened my mind to think like, hey, you don't need to have a college degree or have a master's degree in order to make six figures. And then I'm realizing there are guys in their 20s doing 6 figures a month. Yeah. And I'm going, holy shit, this is changing my mindset. And the management they had there really just unlocked something that I believe a lot of entrepreneurs, more so when they have, good coaches or good mentorships, they realize that everyone and anyone is capable of doing anything as long as they have that light switch turned on, that key that gets unlocked. And a lot of people think that's not for them until that light is turned on for them, until they get enlightened with the belief that anything is possible and I can make money, because if Mary can make money and Jay can make money, why can't I make money, right? The question now is what skills do you have in order to get there, right?
Yeah.
And I did really well in the mortgage industry, but But the one thing I can tell you in terms of my fuck ups, if you want to jump to this, is
Yeah.
Lay it on us.
all right. I made a lot of money as a kid, as a young idiot, and they were teaching you make money. And if you look at the watch and you don't buy it, fuck you, you're not closing enough loans. If you
Yeah.
go to a restaurant and you order a doggy tray, fuck you, you're not closing enough loans. Now, I love my doggy trays. All right.
Right.
I love them. I get hungry later on in the evening. But my point with that is the type of environment they were fostering was, you will tell the restaurant that they're going to deliver a meal to your house because you're making that much money. And things that I thought were not possible, like, Ruth's Chris or whatever, any kind of name any place you would think wouldn't deliver. When you slap an American Express Black Card, you say, put whatever tip you want on there. And as a matter of fact, you tell the general manager, you tell the manager, he's going to personally deliver it to me. And the fact that they would, I'm like, holy shit, this is just like mind blowing.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you started with that, Robert. I mean, you're talking about the aha moment, right? Mindset being like king here. This is like the key to whatever the future holds for you, is just like having that awareness, having the right people that you're around, that you even see those possibilities, because you started earlier, saying you're an immigrant, like your family, you didn't know the possibilities of what you have today. So
I most certainly did not. I can tell you that right now. Lawrence made a great post today, and I'm not sure if it's his quote or whatnot, but it says, I'm humble enough to know that I could lose it all, but I'm confident enough to know that I can get it all back.
Yeah.
And when the market tanked in 2008, this is where I'm going to go with my fuck up.
Okay.
All this money that I was making, but I had zero mentorship. I had zero financial mentors. Everyone that I knew, even though I was making money, was broke. And I've learned a long time ago, don't take financial advice from broke people, and don't take marriage advice from divorced people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they could give you great input of, hey, what not to do. But at the same token, I'd rather follow the advice of someone that's been married for 50 years. I'd rather follow the financial advice of people that have what I aspire to have. Because I think it's funny that growing up, I'm not sure if you guys experience this, it seems like broke people are always giving you great financial advice.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Right. So I didn't have, with all the money I made, and this pissed me off, I didn't buy one single rental property. Okay. I was 23 years old when I bought my first house. I grew up in Section 8 apartment housing. When I say housing, meaning apartments. Okay.
Right.
I used to look out the window and like the burning desire to have a house, because I was the poor kid who grew up on the third floor of an apartment complex, or even the other poor kids who had lived in a house called you, the poor kid because you lived in the hood.
Right.
We're all in the hood. We're all living here. You just happen to have a house.
You're just the house across the street.
Yeah, jerk off, so, but still, it's something that really burned something inside of me, that I really want a house. And again, at the time, I still had no idea how that was possible. So you fast forward, I bought my first house at 23, and I was living the high life. We were making great money, but I was also lazy. I caught myself being lazy. I caught myself, when I say lazy, meaning, you make, let's say $30,000-$40,000, commission check. And then you kind of start coasting. You're like, I have a little bit of money. I don't have to work that bad. Another loan will come through, right? I'll put that one in the pipeline. I could close it quicker, but, I'm kind of chilling, and that whole process started building up and accumulating to the point where I had a good reputation because of loans. I did service really well. But the month that the sky fell for me, I was set to make $2 million. I had a $42 million pipeline I had built up by myself. Okay. Meaning it was my personal pipeline, not my team or anything like that.
Right.
And I go from there going, I am taking it easy. I am so chilling right now. Lost my house by 25. The market tanked, and I was the first wave of foreclosures. First wave. It seemed like the next wave and the following wave, people ended up staying in their houses for 8 to 10 years without making any mortgage payments, and it was just something that just devastated me. I went through a deep depression going, what the fuck? I had all this money, and before I knew it, I'm looking going, how on earth am I going to come up with 17 grand right now? What did I do with all this money I made? And it was something that was really difficult and beyond humbling, when you're, young dad and you have your first house and you're losing it less than 3 years after you bought it. And I have 4 kids at this point, all boys. And I'm going, what am I going to do right now? It is the biggest like reality check and the most humbling thing that you can ever go through when you're going, oh my God, where am I going to move my family?
Right.
I literally don't have a pot to piss in right now. I'm burning everything up trying to pay bills, trying to get caught up. And I'm realizing there's no way I'm getting caught up. I have people with 800 credit scores that I can't give a loan to because the world is falling. You know,
Right.
Taylor Beeman Whitaker went under. Bear Stearns, huge mega Centaurian, 100-year-old type companies, fell. And
Yeah.
there was a pause, there was a lull, there was a stay in the market where no one was lending. No one's lending, and then my only source of income was mortgages, and I need money in order to pay my bills. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And it seemed like there was a mass exodus in the title industry, in the real estate industry, in the mortgage industry, and in the construction industry.
Yeah.
So it seemed like, I think of that movie. I just thought of right now, that Jim Carrey movie. I forgot what it is when him and his wife start robbing everything and they're stealing the grass,
Oh
repossessing the
yeah, yeah,
grass.
yeah.
When
Uh,
whatever that movie is, whoever's watching this, I'm sure you guys know. But my point with that is when you live in a town or an area and everyone's applying for jobs, but now you're having hundreds and hundreds of thousands of industry professionals applying for jobs.
Yeah.
Everyone's, leaving the industry. Now you're fighting for different opportunities. And I'm going, what in the fuck am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And that threw me. I had the choice: do I pack up my bags and do I leave the industry, or do I double down? And I guess I'm not sure if I'm hard headed or it was the military, but I'm like, I don't know of any other industry that I can make this kind of money, because when I was looking at different
Yeah.
ways to support my family, I'm going, there's no fucking way. And everyone's
Yeah.
yelling at me, leave, leave, leave. I'm not
Right.
going to fucking work at McDonald's. I'm not going to be a young father. And again, there's nothing wrong with a man doing what he has to do to support his family at all.
right.
Of
At
course.
all. I respect that 100%. But I was like in a position where I was such in this state of depression going, what the fuck am I going to do? I'm not going to work at McDonald's when I was making these giant paychecks. It's going to take me 7 years to make what I made in a month working at whatever job would give me, the opportunity to work.
Yeah.
So I doubled down. I stayed in there as long as possible. I went to another property that we started getting into, and I learned like overnight the distressed real estate space.
Okay.
What I locked in income, which really propelled me because it did pay off significantly. I would spend 18 to 20 hours a day understanding financial markets, understanding whole loan operations, understanding, camel ratings of banks. I was trying to understand why I lost my house so fast and other people didn't.
Okay.
I realized that there was a space that people needed help in. And I started learning about write downs, which later on became known as short sales. And then that really propelled me. My first short sale transaction, I did over $122,000. And I was like, oh my God, I'm back. And I started doing that on residential properties. And it took me forever, by the way. I was eating shit.
So now, just out of curiosity, Robert, are you still just doing loans at this point, or are you acting as an agent as well?
No. So as a result of all that, the money I was able to generate from trading debt, it really propelled me further. And I was able to take that money and then invest into different verticals. So now I have a title business that we've recently expanded into 9 states. I've got my mortgage company still, both our retail side, and we have lendprivatemoney.com, which is our wholesale operations. Our fix and flip or DSCR or non-QM loans, that we're able to do that in 42 or 43 states. I've got my real estate brokerage. I'm a state certified general contractor.
Yeah.
I literally have picked up every single license.
I mean, when you say you doubled down, you like quadrupled down, because you went to every single real estate vertical that there is.
That was a 20-year plan in the making. When the market tanked, even prior to, I had this vision because this one individual came into the office and he was paid. I mean, but prior to the crash, prior to me opening up my first company, this guy came in and he had the beautiful, 7 Series when it first came out with the massaging back chair and the champagne glasses in the back. And he had, the fancy watches and all this stuff. And this guy's like, oh, I own an appraisal company and I own this, I own a notary business. And I'm like, the idea hit, that, hey, that guy can own all these verticals and he's doing so well, at least from all outward appearances. That would be awesome to have that. It was so far away, but I was like, you know what? The seed was planted going, I want that. Then the more I started thinking about it, I thought, hey, for, if I'm going to make money on the loan side, or I'm going to make money on the retail, meaning being a real estate agent, how great would it be if every single piece of that transaction I can earn just a small little sliver?
Yep.
And that's what eventually ended up happening. Every finger in my hand became an income stream. And as Kent put it, because I never heard it like this, I was having a discussion with him, and he goes, "Man, you have PTSD." And I was like, "Well, I mean, who goes to war and is not 100% cool, but I don't think I have, any issues." Like, "No, man, you have PTSD from the financial crisis." When the market tanked and you only had one source of income, fuck, now you have multiple sources of income. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
And
That's
it
interesting.
really, it really put things in perspective that, the beautiful part about my business right now is everything, as things ebbs and flows, in business, you want to have more consistency, but inherently, as the oceans ebb and flow, in and out, you're going to have business that goes up and down. So it's amazing that we've created an organization, an ecosystem that allows us to make money where, let's say, one vertical may be a little bit slower, the other vertical can pick that up, and we're generating, revenue across the board. So our top line is fair and healthy and consistent, and progressively, growing. So we're really happy about that. But that was not an accident. That was a 20-year plan, and that was a little bit at a time.
Yeah. So actually, if we can kind of explore maybe a few fuck ups that you had with some of those verticals, because I think that's something that we've had quite a few guests on, but nobody that's really been able to kind of expand onto, doing what you've done and creating verticals at different aspects of the transaction. We've had a lot of people that have built some significant businesses and been able to tell us, some of those mistakes. But I guess could you speak on that a little bit? What were some of the things that you did maybe when starting some of them up that you would do differently, or anything that really comes to mind?
Well, I think it's just like naturally any business owner, any entrepreneur will jump off a cliff and build the airplane on the way down.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people,
Airborne.
yeah, a lot of people are just like, "Hey, you know what? I need to know every single step of every single process before I make a decision." And then you have that entrepreneur is like, "Fuck it, I'm jumping," and they go down. They just commit, and I committed. So let's take a step back. So I left AmeriQuest, and then I went to work for a brokerage shop, and that brokerage shop, offered us 50% commissions. I'm like, "This is more than I'm getting paid at AmeriQuest. Let's do this." And I worked in Sunny Isles at a Russian-owned, mortgage company. And it's funny because the comedian, the guy with the no shirt, he tells you that Russian mafia story,
Okay.
Bert or whatever the case is. The guy's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bert Kirscher or whatever.
yeah, that guy. So I
Yeah.
started my first mortgage company because of the Russian mafia. And well, I'm in there, we're working, and everyone's making money, and I'm not really making money yet. I'm getting great leads, and everything's hopping and popping. And right when I'm about to close some deals, this big monstrosity of an individual walks in. Igor, just picture whatever Igor, whatever Russian enforcer you're thinking about,
Yeah.
walks in there, and he beats the ever living hell out of the manager, the owner, one of the owners of the mortgage company.
Wow.
I mean, puts him through the wall, and we're in the sales pit. Like, guy busts through the wall. Like, what the fuck is this?
Wow.
I packed up my bags. I walk outside, and I'm out there talking to this other Russian guy, and we're like, this is some bullshit. And I'm like, I think I'm going to get out of here. He's like, yeah, me too. And right there and then we did a handshake agreement. I started my first company with him. That was my first bootstrap company. We left and we started and we worked out of his house. And that lasted not very long. One partner turned into two partners. And I was like, oh, the Russian mafia is invading again. But so everything was kind of working out well. I was doing, everything was, we were generating business, but not to the volume that I needed, at the time. So we ended up signing this contract to go after leads, and everything was working out well. And then I thought it'd be great. I used to race motorcycles and go to Homestead Motor Speedway, and I'm, doing my little circuit racing, and then I win this awesome race between my buddies, and I'm popping a wheelie. Everything's going great. And then I fuck up on a victory lap.
Oh.
Okay. I had such muscle fatigue that my right leg slipped off the peg, and I'm holding on to the handlebars, and I 12 o'clock that sucker, and I eat shit. And I remember yelling at myself, slide, don't roll, as I'm rolling out of control.
What curious. So I used to build some. What were you riding?
At the time it was a Suzuki Gixxer 600, but it was all bored out.
Okay.
It was a track bike. I
Yeah,
don't mean
for
like
sure.
just drag racing. This is a not a circuit racing bike.
Yep.
The sucker would compete with thousands all day.
Nice. Nice.
It was great.
Nice.
Had a track kit on there just to go street legal. I'd put a little fog light in the front, a little tail light
Mhm.
in the back. We disconnected for the course,
Yeah.
and the CCS. We did the whole thing, and I ate shit. It was weird. I stood up from that accident. Well, first of all, my buddies are all like over me. They're flipping my visor up, and I'm going. I'm telling my team not to bother me. My buddies are looking at me. They flip my visor up. They go, "Hey, man!" I go, "What?" They're like, "Your bike's okay." I'm like, "Okay." And I stood up, and for some reason, I can only walk sideways. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me. I stood up. I can only walk sideways. I shattered my collarbone. I got myself all messed up, and that led to me being bought out of my mortgage company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now this was the first mortgage company with the handshake deal,
Yeah.
Russian mafia.
Yep.
You get bought out.
So
Yeah.
I'm guessing there was a shakedown, and that's the story that you have to tell people, so the Russian mafia doesn't have to come after you because they
I know. I
ripped
don't
you
even
up.
care,
No,
man. I walked in
no,
there, and it was a whole argument, right? And I was just keeping my mouth shut, and I was listening. I'm really. Yeah, I learned. I knew more then, but
yeah.
I remember at the time, like I was talking to everyone I could, and "Я говорю по-русски немножко." All right. I went into them and I started chewing them out in Russian, and because they were talking shit, and I
Oh
understood
yeah.
everything they were saying, and I snapped. And we pretty much made the resolution that the deals in my pipeline, I'm going to close out. I'm going to take my money, and I'm going to leave, and they're going to handle the contract, and they're going to take over those operations. So then I
Wow.
started my first solo operation, and I moved to Orlando.
So how old were you at that time where you started
I
your
was
first solo?
20. Oh man, I was 20, 21 or 22 at the time. Yeah, no, I was 21. I was 21 because then I moved to Orlando and I bought my first property in Orlando from Miami, Hollywood, really. I was 23 and I bought the house.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in that 2-year period, I'd built up. I pretty much replicated what I had at AmeriQuest. We built up the same teams. I had 14 loan officers in each office, 2 processors. We scaled to a couple offices. We did really, really well.
Yeah.
And then
I didn't realize that you started in the mortgage industry. I think most of the investors that we talk about more start as a real estate agent or just on the investment side, but you were 100% started on the mortgage side.
I 100% started on the mortgage side, which helped me understand, finances and the mechanics of a deal and deal structuring and that whole aspect of how to qualify for loans. So a lot of education there, which also translated or was able to be transfer. Those same skills were transferable to when I was negotiating debt purchases for non-performing notes. So when we started getting into that thing, I had no idea what I was doing in the note space. Like I was winging it. Okay. That was a whole other vertical that, worked in our favor. In my first trade, I made 7 figures, and I go from losing a house to fucking shit. I'm back.
Yeah.
But at this point, I had PTSD with money. At this entire time, I was the cheapest person you've ever met. I was like, $1? You must be out of your fucking mind. I'm not paying you $1, and I was just like so cognizant of my expenses.
You went from American Express Black, right, at Ruth Chris's like manager, like bring me my shit, to I'm not spending $1.
Well, let's take a step back. The managers had the American Express Black Card. I was
Right.
These guys had the area manager had a $4.4 million per year base salary plus commissions.
Wow.
And their commissions rivaled their salary. Okay.
Yeah.
So they had that. I was just there with my eyes open going, holy fuck, this is cool.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I want this. You know what? Yeah. That's kind of cool. And they were very generous with the people because I guess they were a little bit show and they were a little bit, a little cocky on the phone, but no one wants to be talked down to, but they were making the point, which it did drive home the point that, you know what, this is a financial firm. We're not leaving from our table. The reason they did that was to show us that we shouldn't be leaving our chairs. The money is right here. The money's in the phone. Yeah. And right now, a lot of people have it spoiled. They have dialers and SMS platforms. I literally was with a phone pressing buttons, letting it ring 3 to 4 times, hanging up and doing this all day. Yeah. So when people talk about, minimum 40 minutes or 4 hours of talk time, I'm like, that's some bullshit. Even when I'm yelling at my staff, you guys can't handle that. I cold called all day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That was my schedule. and I was actually there
Right.
early at 7, and I wouldn't leave till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Um, but I was
So
so
now
hungry.
what do you push your team for now?
Which team? Right now, for our wholesale operations, it's 4 hours of talk time. I want to
Okay.
monitor 4 hours of talk time and quality conversations. I want to say it's industry standard. I can
Mhm.
tell you right now, I love the content and I love everything that Eric Klein puts out, another
Oh, yeah.
boardroom member. The
Yep.
guy's a rock star, and the numbers he's hitting is something that I like to share with my team. Going again, look what other people are able to do, and other people are able to do this. You should be able to do this. So when I look at what someone like that is doing, that's 100% like respect. Going, hey, whenever we mention him, it's because it's a marker, and that
Yeah.
marker can be placed with not just Eric. There's a lot of industry professionals that are absolutely
Right.
rocking and rolling, but the content he puts out, it's
Mhm.
real, it's raw. I love it. It's straight to the point. And I understand the industry. I understand the game. I've been on the telemarketing side. I understand the psychology of sales. I understand the purpose of the pauses and the pitches. I just can't keep doing it all, because if not, then there's no way I'm going to be able to scale. So if I
Yeah.
can offer the
Yeah.
tools and the resources to my team, you know, it's like sink or swim, guys.
No.
I don't want to drag you to the water for you to
Right.
drink the water. It's
Yeah.
either I'm going to tell you where the water's at, and those that are worthy, meaning those that say, look, I want to do this, and I'm going to show you that I'm ready to do this, and I'm going to find my own way. I just need a little bit of guidance. Those are the
Yeah.
people that I want. And unfortunately, if I've got to recruit, 100 people a year, a month, whatever the case is, to get, that 3%, right? If I get 3 out of 100 and I just keep doing that rotation over and over and over, before we know it, we're going to have a team of sharpshooters,
Right.
Yeah.
a team of snipers, and we're going to be rocking and rolling.
So I'm just curious now, how did your progression of verticals start? So you started with mortgages.
Mhm.
What was the next industry or vertical that you went into? Because I have the feeling someone listening to this could be like, oh, yeah, it sounds great, but I want to take this 20-year plan of having, these 5, 7, what are you in, 7 different verticals at this point? I want to be able to do all that and try and compress it and like get into a lot of trouble because they try and go into too many different things at once, right? So for anyone who's looking to scale or to go into their first, vertical or look into other streams of income, how do you suggest that they did that? Or maybe there's, something that you fucked up along the way that you could be like, I wouldn't have done it
Well,
that way.
necessity. I did a post earlier, and I say this a lot. Necessity stimulates creativity, right? So when the mortgage business tanked, I wasn't doing much with that company at the time. And even though I had good track record and good P&L, and I had good teams, which were all overnight eradicated, right? I caught myself in this position of what am I going to do? And I had, I was evolving into buying properties and doing short sales. And then I just kept, trying to figure out how can I, how can I improve the process of short sales, right? Well, I can't
Okay.
control the bank. So these questions kept popping in my head of how can I get to these properties and how can I close them faster? Because some of these short sales would take years to negotiate. The banks were not equipped with, loan modification departments and loss mitigation departments, excuse me, which accompanied, different, myriad of services. Then I started learning about, well, what if I became the bank? Well, how the fuck am I going to become the bank if I don't have any money?
Yeah.
And it's just all these kind of questions of just like, like word clouds, thought processes, just kind of
Right.
putting down ideas and then trying to figure out strategies, right? In the military, it's like, hey, attack this palace. Well, fuck, I can't do that. Or can I? Do you need a massive force to be able to bust down doors, or can one single individual operator sneak in there like special operations, right? That's the way my mind would work. And I was very, very good at finding side doors and back doors to every problem that I had. Okay. When I was calling around banks, when I say banks, I'm talking about either, you know, private, hedge funds or whatnot, or the
Mhm.
actual bank institutions themselves. I was really good at navigating. However, when it's Robert calling with 75 fast offer, they didn't take me as seriously. So
Right.
I was trying to figure out what kind of company, how I wanted to rebrand myself. At the
Okay.
time, Countrywide had already been out of business for a couple years, okay, or about a year or two. Countrywide at the time owned 1 out of every 3 mortgages in the country. Okay, they were the largest lender
Yeah.
lender by far. 1 out of 3. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
so when they went under, that they kind of had a bad name. Now, reading one of Donald Trump's books, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out how and what I wanted to come up with a name. And I really wanted to go like nationwide. So I'm like, how can I come up with a nationwide like home buying company? And I was like, nationwide. No, they're on your side. I can't do that one, and I'm trying to come up with different things. And I'm like, countrywide. I'm like, all right, countrywide. And kind of the name kind of rolled off to Countrywide Capital Group. And I just started cold calling banks. And it went to the point where I didn't feel like I was making any progress whatsoever. Number one. Number two, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Number three, I didn't have any money. So here I am trying to call banks, trying to figure out how I could buy non-performing notes so I could approve the short sales faster, okay, with no money. And these were obstacles. I said, I'll figure that out later.
Right.
And the same way people were wholesaling individual properties, I was able to do 15 plus years ago in portfolios.
Wow.
So I find myself sometimes to some degree like, why am I even fucking around trying to do this little operation just because I want to generate an extra $1 or $2 million per year in this vertical when I can do one trade, a lot less stress, and I could do that. Now the market shifted, so it's not as low hanging of a fruit as it was before. Blind nut could have got a squirrel, whatever though. A blind squirrel could have got a nut back then.
Yeah.
Right. But because it was, in abundance. I mean, so many banks were going under it. That financial crisis really opened the door to a lot of people that otherwise would not have been able to get a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were persistent enough, you were able to get a seat at the table. And I remember calling, I believe it was a Wells Fargo trade desk. And I called this guy so many times where he was like, Rob, you need $50 million in order to trade, okay, with us. And I was like trade like the stock market trade? Like I would just cold call this guy to the point where he was like, I go, dude, I'm going to keep calling you because I found you. And I'm going to keep calling you. I'm going to change my name. And I don't give a fuck how bad I know you. You're going to give me a fucking name. If someone is going to sell me some fucking debt, or I'm going to keep calling you. And the guy's like, fucking call this guy. And I go, all right, thank you so much. And I called him and I'm confident as shit. I go, oh, this is Robert Vazquez with Countrywide Capital Group. He goes, Countrywide? Hold on one second. Beep. I hear him in the background. Hey, boss, we got Rob with Countrywide on the phone. And I'm like,
Yeah.
The guy gets on the phone. He goes, this is Robert with Countrywide. Yes, this is Robert with Countrywide. I don't like to wait this long, and I'm bullshitting on this phone about like needing a trade. And the guy goes, well, what do you want to do? And I go, look, I'm looking for something small to start with. Let's get this relationship going. Do you have anything in Florida? Do you have anything? I have about $10 million. And I go, no, it's small, but I just want to test this thing out and take a look at the quality of these assets. I was talking shit. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what I was going to do when I got this. So anyway, I get a package and
like a tape, right? Like the notes.
I get the tape, but it's a whole deck package, right? So I actually have access to bank's war room. So depending on what bank you were dealing with, you had access to different war rooms. Some of them, they would actually overnight you whole packages, like boxes, like bankers boxes of, and I had to deal with that as well. Others would give me the tape with links to like Intralinks or these other, companies, back end war rooms. So I'm taking this, I'm going, what the fuck do I do with this? And I got like 1,000 loans in there. I'm like, what the guys, I'll give you 45 days to do your due diligence. I'm like, fair enough. Then I got this package and I'm going, what the hell do I do with it? So I start kind of reviewing it and I'm going, this 1003 wasn't filled out correctly. And this wasn't done correctly because I had the experience in the mortgage side going, this is unenforceable because you can argue this. And then I started learning more about software to help automate this. So then I ended up buying this forensic loan auditing software. I started putting this data in there. Then I started training people in the Philippines because I started learning about scaling back then. And I walked them through. I created this little, before Loom was Loom, whatever screencast software I pirated from the internet because I sure as hell didn't pay for it. Probably got a million viruses back in LimeWire day. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going through all this and I'm auditing all these files and I'm coming back and I would start doing like getting to the point where I go, I don't have enough time for this in this time period. I would take 10% out and I would audit it. And depending on the severity of the negligence or, the default kind of rate or percentage, I would come back and I would say, look, I'll be honest with you, this is shit. This is shit. And I would give them a report. And I go, what kind of price point do you guys think you're expecting here?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I want to hear what he's going to say.
Right.
And immediately I'm like, oh, you're fucking crazy. The market's tanking right now. Blah, 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 blah. What's your bottom line price? And the guy goes, look, man, if you can get us 22 cents to the UPB, it's a fair deal for us. It's a fair deal for you. I'm like, I don't know about that. Let me think about this, guys. Let me do some more auditing, and I'll get right back to you. I'm like, all right, 22 UPB. What's UPB? You know, and I'm winging this. I'm totally winging this. I mean, I got very, very, very good in a short amount of time. Okay. It
That's
also
great.
helps when you're spending 18 to 20 hours per day. I didn't sleep. I don't sleep, you know, and I had to because I had to support my family. I was
Right.
all in. I literally was all in. And I did the first trade. It was successful. I was ended up brokering that trade. It was like 22 cents. I charged 26 cents, something like that. I made a couple cents in between. I go, holy fuck, I just made some money, you know, whatever it was. It was a fucking good sized check. And I go, okay, this is great. And I put that aside and acted as if I didn't have it.
Yep.
Okay. I was broke. I paid my bills. That was it. Trying to
Yeah.
figure out the next situation in the house. Where are we going to move to next? That money's not there. What can we do? Because this is the rainy day. This is what I learned. That's my fuck up.
Yeah.
You know, and I still didn't learn. Okay, and I'm going to kind of get into that. But you know, now I had reserves. Okay, and now we're trading debt and everything's going well. And that just kind of evolved. You know, I realized it's like I got screwed a lot, and I became very cynical. And at the time, everyone wanted to know where was Robert Vazquez getting these REO properties? Where was Robert Vazquez getting these non-performing notes? And everyone would be like, "Fuck you, we need to deal direct." And I go, "Fuck you, then you can figure it out yourself." Because
Right.
every time I took the chance and try to introduce somebody, even with NDAs or whatnot, they try to circle around me, and a lot of them
Wow.
are successful in doing it. So I created this whole like scarcity mindset because it's like I found like I don't know whatever that movie is, Lord of the Rings, a little guy with a ring. I'm like, hey, it's my ring, you know. Oh,
Yeah.
no,
Right.
it's my ring, and that's how I felt about my sources. So I ended up
Yeah.
doing infinitely less deals because I was so concerned about that one, two, three, four people that would have screwed me over.
Yeah.
That hurt me. You
Yeah.
know, the one thing
Wow.
I can say that was a fuck up. You know, right now I have this abundance mindset where it's like, look, man, this is a small world. If you're gonna fuck me, you're gonna fuck me, right?
Yeah.
And that's only gonna, you know, be a testament to your character, not mine, right?
Yeah.
And people are gonna know about that. So if you need the deal that bad to screw other people over, they're bringing value to you. Good luck. Goodbye, honey boo boo. All right.
Yeah.
Bye,
Yep.
Felicia. All right. Take off. Because it's going to happen inherently. And that shift, that mindset really has helped me. You know, it didn't happen until years later. That was my fuck up. I look back at deals. Like I remember one guy who apparently is a major dude here in Orlando. I've learned that later on. And he came to my office and he's like, "Oh, I've got all the money." And I go, "Well, do you?" Because I was researching him. And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "I need to see the product. You know who I am?" I go, "I know you're in my office. I know I didn't come see you. And I know that you're asking to see my product. But if you have all this money, show me the money." And that really offended the guy. And he goes, "Yeah, blah, blah, blah." I go, what I do know is that I think you're going to lock up my assets and you're going to probably travel to Brazil. You're going to do a capital raise like you did for your last development when you're telling me it's all your fucking money." Ooh, that really pissed him off.
Wow.
But I did my research and I realized this guy did a
Yeah.
capital raise overseas. And the agreements that I had, which I valued very much with my lending partnerships, my banking partnerships,
Mhm.
was, you know, I signed NDAs. I can't share this shit around, right? I have to
Right.
qualify people. They have to go through my NDA, my process. I'd get them through my war room because I ended up paying a lot of money for one of these data rooms. And they would have to qualify themselves and they would have indicative bid periods and so on and so forth. And I would like get the best bid and I'd come back and I'd counter. It's really simple. You come
Yeah.
back, you counter at 26. I come back, I counter at 24, 23. You know, I would take their number and just reduce it down and vice versa. They counter up and I counter down. And I was just
Yeah.
broke in the middle. I'm like, I just found a product niche that works. I found one hedge fund that we ended up trading a fair amount of debt to. And then I started catching myself asking these questions. What are you guys going to do with the assets? And they're like, well, we're going to sell them. And go, okay, well, I've been trading debt to a lot of these hedge funds, you guys, and you don't have an idea of what to do after you get them because in theory, when you're a good capital raiser, it's great to show investors, look, I've got a tape, right, with 7,000 assets on there. We're going to raise X amount of dollars and we're going to buy this. When reality sets that you now have 7,000 or 5,000 or 3,000 assets that you own nationwide, you now have to keep track of your accounting. You now have to pay for these lawn property preservation fees. You have to pay realtors, asset. You know, you're now having to protect these assets, and a lot of these hedge funds did not have the capacity. They did not have the bandwidth. They were not prepared for that. Okay, so again, where I found the opportunity was thinking of the I see, and I share this a lot. You know, I think Bank of American's ultimate true origin, or it might have been Wells Fargo, but I believe it was Bank of America. Inevitably, it became Bank of America. Was the gold mining days. When the gold rush, when everyone went out to California and everyone was mining gold, everyone got sold on the vision of everyone can be rich if you take the chance of the gold rush and you move out to California, you go out there and
Mhm.
pan for gold, and you can become a millionaire, right? And it seemed like more money was being made off the gold miners, mining gold than the gold miners made mining gold, right? They
Right.
sold
Right.
Yeah.
they sold the shovels, they sold the jeans, they sold the
Yeah.
product. So I was thinking to myself, again, in that my thought process, I'm just kind of sitting there late at night thinking, what can I do to make more money? How can I make money? I don't have the gunpowder. I wasn't a good capital raiser at the time. The market was tanking and I just
Right.
didn't have that ability, but I was able to find the product. And then I sell the product that's very transactional. So how can I make more money on these trades? At the time I wrote to Fannie Mae, because I was part of a couple bulk acquisitions through Fannie Mae. Very few people in the country were able to do that. Larger institutions were.
Right.
And I wrote something that's still circulating through the internet called the CCG approved strategy. CCG was my
Okay.
Countrywide Capital Group approved strategy. And at the time, they were slowing down their bulk trades because they realized there was this epidemic, excuse me, where investors were buying blocks of homes through bulk acquisitions, and they again did not have the infrastructure to
Right.
put this thing out. So I created the CCG approved strategy and I submitted it to Fannie Mae, going, please look at my proposal. This should be instituted to investors. They should be held accountable. Why? Because investors, while trying to make a buck, okay, the byproduct of buying such large quantity of assets without the infrastructure led to further crime and further like crippling of homes and neighborhoods,
Right.
because now you had homes that weren't being serviced and they didn't
Yeah.
have the bandwidth to send people out there. Now you're having distressed homes, an even greater state of distress
Yeah.
without the infrastructure, the manpower, the capital to sell them. So these hedge funds.
Investors are supposed to be improving neighborhoods, not letting them turn to
Correct.
shit.
And to be fair, there was a major learning curve and there was a big bandwidth, of that they had to create, whole infrastructure, whole industries, right? And
Mhm.
you figure that if 97 to 99% of mortgage loan operations were originations, right? Originations and processing during that time, now you have to retool that. And now 95% of these floors ended up becoming loss mitigation departments because they were trying to
Mm.
mitigate the losses. They were trying to, stop the bleed, right? When you're
Yeah.
having depository banks that have camel ratings that are exceeding a 3%, right? Now they're in danger of being taken over by the FDIC, which forced certain depository banks, their whole loan operations, to have to trade them in order to create the liquidity to not be taken over. So it created was this perfect whirlwind of banks that needed to get rid of assets, but then that problem came about. So how did I create a solution? Right? I didn't. I was trying to capitalize on what I could capitalize on. So then I started reaching out to banks and going, okay, well, what are you guys going to do with these assets I just traded? And they're like, well, we're gonna reach out to realtors. I go, great, you guys have realtors? They said, no, we don't. I go, well, I have realtors. I have 2,000 realtors nationwide, because during my short sale boom, I created this assembly line where it was easy. I went on LinkedIn because Facebook sucked or didn't exist or whatever the hell it was. MySpace was terrible at the time for that. I went on LinkedIn. That was my main platform. And I started advertising, hey, realtors, I could help with short sales. If you have customers that are losing their houses, I can make sure you get a commission and you can help a customer. No one could comprehend at the time, how can I make money in a declining market when my customers owe more than the value of their homes?
Right.
And you're going to pay me money? Every seller that needed to sell, that were at least aware of the fact they needed to sell, because during the time, people, myself included, had the ostrich effect where it's like, this isn't happening to me. You
Yeah.
put your
Right.
head in the sand and you go, I'm going to pretend this isn't happening. And that's the most irresponsible thing you can do, right? The people that were at least aware of saying, I need to sell, they would reach out to the realtors. The realtors would in turn say, I can't help you. Your house is worth 200, you owe 400. I can't help you. I don't know what to do. So when we
Right.
created the magic pill for realtors, it was the easiest sales pitch ever. Come
Right.
to us. We'll help the seller. We'll stop the foreclosure. Okay. You'll get paid a commission. We buy the property. We trade the property. Okay. It was a great solution. So when we started trading the debt to the banks, I ended up utilizing that same network of realtors that gave me business. I in turn gave them business. And we
Nice.
became like a sub servicer, going, listen, I'll give you the property. I want a quarter Okay. I want a quarter commission. And that worked out really well. And then the
Nice.
next evolution of my craziness, I go, they're giving me assets and I'm managing these assets and I'm going, this is a shit renovation. And before I knew it, in some markets, the asset managers would say, well, can you help us out with that? And that was the
That's
first.
it. So then you help them with contractors?
Yeah. So the first one I did was a murder house in Ocala. It was a murder trailer house, which scared the shit out of me. I walked in there and I'm like playing CSI investigator. I'm like, oh my God, the
Blood
struggle happened
splatter,
here.
yeah.
And the person must have shot the guy this way because the blood splatter's over there. And I'm playing investigator. I'm like, I need to stop doing this shit. I'm freaking myself out. And I'm in like the backwoods of Ocala. And I told the bank, I'm like, do you mind if I do this? And they're like, we don't have any contractors out there. Go for it. And I ended up doing that house. And it was bullshit. It was $6,000 or $7,000 or whatever. And but I realized, okay. And then they asked me, hey, we have this gap in this area. We need help for another one. And then another one, and then another one. And then before I knew it, we're doing like large quantities of this stuff. And that turned into a couple of thousand homes, almost 3,800 homes we did nationwide.
Wow.
So it turned into a whole assembly line. It's funny because right now I struggle trying to find good contractors. During that time when you had everyone out of work and contractors that weren't working, and I said, foreclosure properties looking for contractors, the amount of applications we received was overwhelming.
Yeah.
We had such skilled labor at dirt cheap prices that I'm like, is this going to be a good rate for you? And I would look at it and I would go, some contractors, I go, you know what? You're bidding me 32 cents. I'm going to pay you 40. Okay. Because I'm going to charge 72. And the bank's willing to do it at the 75, but I was trying to beat the other contractors. And I also had the inside track because I was a real estate guy.
Yeah.
So that turned into that whole vertical, so it's like, as the market shifted, I don't want to say shiny fucking whatever the hell syndrome, but shiny object syndrome, but it was an evolution of the market shifting and correcting itself and trying to find that low hanging fruit, so
yeah. Part of what I love that you're describing, Robert, is that in every single obstacle that you faced, you were just thinking outside of the box to say, okay, how can I fix this? How can I be a part of this solution? Right? Like you were problem solving things that nobody else was problem solving. And you were willing to be an idiot on the phone, right? You were willing to make the calls, even though you didn't know what the heck you were talking about, and just do the work.
Well, I want to say it's a differentiating factor between, I say, myself and like a W-2 employee. I say that as an example because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that I'm no different. I'm no different than you or you, Jake, or anybody, right? If you want something, you're gonna have to figure it out. At the time, it was sink or swim, right? The market was shifting. You're doing well. You're starting to progress and do a little bit more, and then you go through a couple months where shit wasn't happening. I went through a 3-year period where I worked on one deal for 3 years plus 3+ years. I was supposed to make $10 million in that deal. You know how much I made out of it? Zero. I got completely screwed. It was a $30 million commission, and I got fucked. And these two brothers walked away with $30 million and screwed everyone in the middle. And I went from, I'm going to go after them. I'm gonna do some crazy shit. I'm gonna get my money. And I brought my attorney in, and he's like, look, you're gonna end up paying me money. They're gonna bankrupt you because they have 30 million and you don't. And they're gonna drag this thing out in court. They go, well, I'm gonna this, that, whatever. And the guy goes, then you're gonna have to pay me for legal defense services because you killed a guy. And I'm like, fuck. And I was just like,
you had to keep those friends in the Russian mafia.
Yeah, right.
They would be more afraid of me. They would have been more afraid of me than those guys, I assure you. I was very motivated. And it was just that was a struggle too, because I had to understand that that's an L. That's a loss I took, and that's one that took me, like I said, years and years and years of my life to put together. And multiple conversation. I'm talking to people from China to Hawaii to Brazil to all around the world, and we're raising money and doing all this stuff and finding the right buyers. And I mean, it was an interesting deal we put together. All right,
so give me a visualization of one day in the life of Robert Vazquez right now. What does it look like? Because I know you're into a whole lot of different things. Are you the sole owner of most of these companies? Do you have partners? And then what is just one day in the life of Robert look?
All right,
look
so
like?
the average day right now is a little bit slower than the way I like. I go to sleep maybe around midnight. I'm up at 4:30 to 5 a.m. I go to the gym, so this is why it's slower because if I'm back to Ironman training, I'm going to sleep around the same time, sometimes earlier because my body naturally just shuts down. But I'm up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing my swims and everything else. I'm not doing that right now. I'm in my bulking phase, which is to say I'm lazy. I'm not fucking running. But I wake up, I go to the gym. I spend a couple hours in the gym. I spend my 30 to 45 minutes in the sauna, take a shower. I come to the office. We do our meetings in the morning. The team operates to do what they have to do. I'm just now checking on what the team's doing. I want to make sure the numbers are being hit. I'm checking on my title operations. Um, they come back to me. I review everything. Okay, do you have any questions on it? I review things that only if it needs a second set of eyes. Like, look, we need to figure out, hey, do we need to clear this line, this lien? Does this already been self extinguished? Do we need this form? Stuff like that. It just doesn't
Okay.
take a whole lot of my time. I shake hands, I kiss babies, which is to say I politic. We have to,
Yeah.
get on the phone and deal with people. But most of the time, it's just kind of reacting throughout the day. I'm making sure that I'm growing this vertical. I'm talking to the right people over here. I'm kind of growing the operations. I like it when I have a little bit of quiet time, which doesn't happen because now I installed this great clear door right there. You guys can see that.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that clear door is annoying because people see me talking on the computer and they still keep walking up, which is a distraction. I'm like, no, leave me alone. No. I start frosting that door and saying if it's closed, leave me alone.
So how many of the businesses are being run out of that office right now? Is
This is the corporate
everything?
office. Everything's being run out of
Okay.
here right now. Yeah, this is
Yep.
corporate office. We have a great expansion plan. However, that's going to be more partnerships than us getting our own physical office locations out there, because
Okay.
we have this great idea of taking our verticals and partnering with people within our organization to help them grow their businesses and adding additional income streams to their businesses, like bolt-on businesses.
Nice.
Nice.
So this is a great way that I've created kind of this idea. We're beta testing with a couple offices right now. So far, it's doing really well, and it's a great way that it allows the rising tide lifts all ships. So if I'm able to give other entrepreneurs that already have their shit together, right? They already
Right.
have their business, their verticals, and are looking to bolt on businesses. This is a great opportunity to do that, and that's kind of where my mentality and my thought process is right now.
So is
Nice.
that kind of a joint venture thing or almost
Correct.
sounds like a franchise thing?
Not a franchise, more like a JV/licensing deal.
Gotcha.
I
Very
like
cool.
how, through multiple kind of points of your story, there was, this partner had done this, and then this was a result of this partner doing that. But even after all of that, you still have, you talked about the scarcity mindset, but that's kind of coming full circle, and you still have that abundance mindset. Super admirable. I think that's incredible that you still have that mentality, and you're willing to explore those partnerships even after, most people I think probably would have taken that and been soured by some of those experiences.
Oh no,
For
there's
sure.
plenty worse, stories, but the
Sure.
reality is, you're going to limit your growth if you're going to assume that every person is going to screw you. Like for example, if you're in a relationship and you've been cheated on, is every guy you're dating, right? Are they going to be bad people? No. Just because you had a bad experience with one or two people doesn't mean that everyone else in the world's going to be like that, right? So, I have had, for example, most recently, I've had my retail mortgage company. I started this, and I had a great plan to do this with a family member, and I really wanted to grow this nationwide. I wanted to scale. They wanted to, but not at the same enthusiasm. And I'll just leave it there. Not the same enthusiasm that I wanted to. And they looked at it more as additional income as opposed to a business that could be independently thriving and operating on its own and scaling. So, that was an amicable kind of dissolution, but it still hurt because it's like, look, we had this vision together and you're doing this more than you're doing this business. So
Yeah.
that came to an amicable dissolution. My title business was the first business that was 100% investment where I do nothing in the business. And then I realized that things were not being done the right way. And as a business, investor, and as an operator, well, as an investor more than an operator, when people don't give you the P&Ls and they're being shady on the request that you're asking for items and you're not getting them, red flags are kind of popping up. And long story short, they ended up taking my entire book of business and starting another company. and I
Wow.
got stuck with a $500,000 wire fraud, that I was liable for. So that definitely left a sour, taste in my mouth. And I went from an investor to an operator. And I previously invested into a title company years ago that I brought from South Florida to Orlando, and that partnership screwed me. I built up the
Wow.
entire book of business up here, and then before we knew it, we're like, oh, they contacted corporate office. Therefore, we had no idea it was you. I'm like, we closed 3 deals with these guys. What do you mean you had no idea? As an
Yeah.
example. And, those kind of relationships, everything was just this culmination of just, shitty work. I want to say work ethic. I like to operate by business in a manner that allows me to look ahead of me, and I never have to look behind me. That's
Yeah.
something that my grandfather taught me when I was younger. I'm old school. He's like, you shake a man's hand, you look him in the eyes, you honor your word. That means you have to take a loss, take the loss. But if you
Yeah.
agree to something, you're going to do it. And if you have to renegotiate, at least renegotiate, but don't do shady shit.
Yeah.
If you're always having to look behind you, you're going to miss the bigger picture. So if you do business the right way, you never have to worry about it. Yes, you're going to take losses along the way, but the shift of thinking like, fuck it, if I had all the money in the world, there's no way in hell I'd be able to buy every single property, right? I'd have
Yeah.
to buy all the best people to help do that. And that's just, those are all
Yeah.
different verticals and different processes. So from that perspective, like I'll have people, they'll say, well, you're going to take my cash buyer. Bro, that's not your cash buyer. He's
Right.
a cash buyer that you got a hold of. And guess what? His name is on the list if I were to pull it right now anyway. A
Hmm.
lot of people are too scarcity minded, like you don't think he's buying properties from somebody else? You're the only person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, give me a
Supplying it.
break. Yeah,
Yeah.
give me a break. Because we meet a lot of people, even through our title company, where they're like, well, I'm not going to give you the buyer's information. I have to speak to the buyer. We're the title company. We want to make sure we're dealing direct with people. There's clear lines of communication, and we're
Right.
having good, we're having proper feedback, right? Not I tell you you're too busy, you don't tell them there's delays, blah 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 blah, because you're
Right.
afraid because you have a scarcity mindset. I assure you, we can care less
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
person. Right? We're too busy running our other, ventures. So I'd say that's one of the biggest mistakes I made. So for everyone here looking or listening and watching this, do not have a scarcity mindset. It's okay to fuck up. Um, Invest your money, save your money, have a rainy day fund. But the biggest mistake that I made during all of this was not getting cash flowing assets. And I
Mhm.
met a billionaire, okay? And it was the coolest experience ever because that guy changed my life. They're talking about having a mentor.
Hmm.
I came across one asset, tape, and I was analyzing it, going, okay, because everyone gave me all these shit products, right? And I'm like, this isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. I got really good at determining what was real or not. This is an aggregated portfolio from an REO website. Bullshit. You're not direct. Get out of here. And lo and behold, I do a 10% audit on one guy who owned 3,500 homes in the west coast of Florida. I started researching this guy, and I have a full out man crush. I don't care. I'm like, this guy's the shit. When I get older, I want to be like that guy. What the fuck? You talk about a person who became a billionaire who bullshitted his way, and I mean to say it respectfully, right? Not like
Right.
Right.
you're just trying to, you're trying to be successful. You're trying to figure
Yeah.
out shit along the way. And this guy like built a nuclear power plant and had no idea what the fuck he was doing, and negotiated with like, generals and stuff like that, and colonels in the military, and was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and just built mega businesses and just winged it all. And you hear how I saw some of his interviews and how this guy would show up to black tie galas and ripped up jeans and flip flops, and he's like, you guys are here to honor me. I'm not a bum. I'm able to walk in, and how security wouldn't even let him to his own events, because he was like just so chill and so humble.
Yeah.
Um, Meeting this guy in person, I wrote him. I said, there's no way one guy owns this, and sort of researching the guy, I wrote the guy a letter. Win friends, how to win friends and influence people.
Hmm.
Reading
Yeah.
it, I go, I'm going to write this fucking guy a letter. And he replied back in an email because I gave him my business card. He goes, no one writes letters like this anymore. Next time you're in Sarasota, come see me. And I was like, I
I'll be
have
there
to
tomorrow.
in Sarasota tomorrow.
Yeah.
What a coincidence. And I went out there. And I'm
Yeah.
pitching this guy to be my investor on this deal. Supposed to make $500,000 in this flip. And it was just an overnight. I just got the short sale approved. My other buyer backed out. I needed the money for 24 hours. Oh, correction, 72 hours. I was a 72-hour resale restriction. And it was just an issue. I had transactional funding partners
Mhm.
and all this other stuff, but for that size loan amount, it just wasn't feasible
Yeah.
at the time. And so I'm over there to pitch this guy. And he asked me a simple question. He says, Rob, you asked me to be a mentor and you said you'd listen. I said, yes, sir. He goes, if you don't do this deal right now, what happens? I go, well, then I'd have to, I don't know, I'd lose and I'd renegotiate. He goes, no, no, no. If you don't make money right now in this deal, what kind of other sources of money do you have coming in? And I'm like, well, I got a couple deals in the pipeline. And he kept asking the same question. And without boring you, because he asked it, I was so hard headed. I kind of
Yeah.
had an idea of what he was asking me. I was like, he's like, Rob, how many properties was on that list you called me? I don't know, 3,000, 3,500 houses. I go, yeah. He goes, I got 3,500 houses paying me cash every single month. So whether or not I do this deal with you or not, whether I do this deal or not, I've got 3,500 hardworking families paying me money.
Yeah.
So I ask you the question again. I'm not interested in funding this deal. If you don't do this deal right now, what happens? So I sat there and I thought long and hard. And I go, you know what? I think I know what you're telling me. If you were to fund this deal for me, I'm going to take the profit and I'm going to buy some cash flowing properties. And the guy looked at me and goes, I don't think you're getting this. And I said, I was pissed. So I went to this house that I had. It was a beautiful island property, okay, on the northern tip of Palm Island. It's a short sale that
Mhm.
I had. And I got to enjoy the property for 2.5 years. It was gorgeous. Had to take a ferry out to the island, park the car in the golf cart in the resort, and take my little golf cart all the way to the back to the private island with another gate opened up and go all the way to my house back there. It was fucking sick. It was the coolest house I had for a couple of years. It was amazing. All right. Really difficult to get to.
Yeah.
So Boca, it's right here. Then you have Stumpy Pass, and then Boca Grande, where President's Vacation. Okay, so
Okay.
from tip to tip, that was a really desirable area. And I sat there pissed off. I'm like, this fucking guy has all this money, and I give him a great opportunity to make money overnight, and he hears me out, and he thinks I'm a good guy, and he won't fund this transaction. I'm fucking pissed, and I'm thinking, who the fuck am I to be pissed? A billionaire gave me his time. A billionaire
Yeah.
was pouring into me, and here I am rebuttaling him, and he's fucking right.
Yeah.
I'm taking a sip of my coffee, and I start yelling out, get the fuck off my beach. It's a private beach, just because I wanted to say it, because it was, but I didn't give a shit. I just say it because whatever. And then I sat there and I thought to myself, fucking, this guy's right. And then I spent the next couple years building my asset base. And
Nice.
the next thing, I'm like, this guy bought properties at tax auction. And I ended up coming across the same thing. When I see an opportunity, I squeeze every fucking bit of juice out of it. And I came across one hedge fund and I helped them trade some assets. And then I discovered that they had assets they didn't even know they owned. And I would present it to them. They go, we don't own this. I go, dipshits. Yes, you do. Because if this is your company name, you own it. And they're like, oh my God, we lost that in one of our portfolios. We thought we lost that. And I was like, well, what do you guys want for this lost thing you didn't even think you had? Like, I don't know, give us $500 or something. I go, I could do that.
Wow.
Not a problem. I could do that. And then that sold, we ended up selling thousands of these properties. And we worked out a deal. You give me $1,000 commission for every house that I trade. I'd make you an offer, and they didn't give a shit. And I started like just essentially wholesaling my own properties. I take them. I go, do you guys want what? Would you guys take, like $1,500 for this one? They go, yeah, sure. I have it sold for 8,000.
Nice.
So and this was just the easiest of wholesaling I've ever done. And then the first trade went. I go, I'll trade you $60,000 commission for this 60 property portfolio. And they go, okay. And I was like, what? Like, are you serious? I mean, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And then I did it again and again and again. And then the funniest thing happened. I was worth, let's see, I accumulated maybe $12+ million in code enforcement liens. So I became a multimillionaire in debt to the cities for all these shitty properties that I took over. They were sending me violation letters for not cutting the grass and everything. I was like, fuck, I just inherited these properties. What am I going to do here? And that became its own other obstacle. And then that evolved to like us creating like owner financing notes like, well, if I could buy the debt, and then kind of started evolving. I'm like, maybe I can trade this debt, and I'm like, do owner financing and say, look, you give me 10% down, sometimes 5% down at a 10% interest rate, I'll finance you.
Yeah.
And I took properties that sometimes the 5 to 10% down put money in my pocket because my cost basis was literally zero.
Right.
So it's just this ongoing,
Yeah, you're constantly learning.
more opportunities you're going to find.
Oh my gosh. Robert, you, I think, are now the second longest guest that we've had. So you and Carlos Reyes.
Yeah.
But
you know what?
Longest.
I think you guys, and I'd say this as like a badge of honor, from your stories, you guys both have had like the most fuck ups in a good way, though, because like taking those and learning from them and propelling you guys forward, I don't think that's a coincidence at all.
I think there's gonna be a lot of entrepreneurs you're gonna come across that probably have that trait.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, when your feet's against the fire, if you have a family or you're hungry, you're gonna figure out a way to be successful. You're gonna figure out a way to make things work. And sometimes I mean, dude, I went through the crash, to the market recession. I was forced to do it. There's a lot of people that got out of it and the market was stable and it was so much easier to make money. And now with technology and tools and everything, it's so much easier. I mean, the fact that I went from cold calling physically to, people are now in air conditioning rooms with a dialer, and just having to sit back and just,
10-line dialers and everything like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, man, why are you not doing more? Right. And that's the one thing I tell people, because everyone tells me slow down and do less. I have PTSD from doing less. I have PTSD from not living to my full potential. So the way I look at it is, if the market is doing what it's doing, are you working as hard as you possibly can to squeeze every bit of juice out of this market? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if the market shifts, that's when you're really going to think about the statements I'm making right now, going, what the fuck? I have zero shit in my pipeline. Could I have done something else? Could I have made a few more calls? Could I have made a few more offers, or whatever the case may be? And that's something that I never, ever, ever want to ask myself that question again. I don't want the market to shift. And if it does, I know wholeheartedly I'm going to be proud of the answer is that I did do everything I could do. Then the next question will be is, what can I do to do it better? That's just the way it works.
Wow. Well, Robert, I want to wrap us up here and say thank you a million for sharing your story and all of the lessons that you've learned in the 20 plus years at this point in the industry. It's been like, I feel like I have a badge of honor just listening to that. Because
PTSD for saying it. This shit's been a long ride.
Shaking on the way home. And he asked for an IV in the beginning of the episode. Then we make him relive all this.
You did ask for IV.
Thank you so when I leave out of here, actually.
If anyone wants to get in touch with you, follow you, do business with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Instagram, passive income cash flow kings. Just hit me up. I believe, it's right there at the bottom of the screen. Just feel free to hit me up. We get hit up for random stuff. I've got different verticals. If you are a high producing operator and you're looking to possibly expand or have another vertical, hit me up. There could be a possibility that we can maybe work together and explore some JV opportunities with either our lending verticals or our title verticals. There's an opportunity for us to make money in any kind of capacity. Let me know. My focus right now is building affordable housing. That's where my shifts and my energy is just building houses. So that's it. If you guys are interested in learning more, let me know. We do have a Reg D 506C fund. We are going to be transitioning and doing a debt fund right now as well. So just feel free to hit me up.
Awesome.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.